1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
One more.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I got you now. Sorry. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Well, good morning, everyone. Take just another minute. No worries.
Alrighty, I'm so sorry.
Good now?
Good.
Everybody all set? Great. Well, good morning, everyone. The cesspool of Albany corruption is deeper than ever. And the stench reaches all the way from the state capitol right here to Western New York. It's been 6 months since we learned of the details of Andrew Cuomo's deadly nursing home cover-up. And then he had 11 different women come forward with very serious allegations of sexual harassment and misconduct. A new investigation this morning, released by the New York State Bar Association, confirmed what we knew to be true. Andrew Cuomo's nursing home mandate, his executive order of March 25th, 2020, that ordered COVID-positive patients back into nursing homes, did in fact lead to more deaths due to COVID-19 in our nursing homes. And we have evidence in plain sight of the cover-up, video testimony from his own top political aide, and emails that detail the lengths at which they went through to engage in a criminal conspiracy to cover up those deaths in our nursing homes. And then, of course, there are terrible stories of nearly a dozen women who are alleged victims of Andrew Cuomo's sexual harassment and his administration's toxic culture and corruption. Any human with half a heart and half a brain would be appalled to the core by these allegations and actions. They would recognize the danger that Andrew Cuomo represents to the future of the state of New York, that allowing someone so unfit to serve to continue to remain in power like nothing's wrong is a grave violation of constitutional duties. Yet here we are, and Andrew Cuomo is still very much in control in the state of New York. And if you watched his press conference yesterday, spiking the football, you could see the smile on his face because he thinks he's getting away with everything. In fact, the New York State Legislature, they didn't even have the stones to repeal the governor's emergency powers. They're still very much in effect today. All those fireworks last night, those clanking champagne glasses and grandstanding of this governor glosses over this very significant detail. The legislature, they wrapped up session last week for the whole year without doing a damn thing about Andrew Cuomo's corruption and holding him accountable. They couldn't get out of Albany fast enough and declare summer recess is upon us. The sham impeachment inquiry that they announced back in March, it's gone absolutely nowhere. They've had 3 meetings. They were all conducted in secret and nothing happened. Everything they need to impeach Andrew Cuomo is right in front of their faces. It's been reported by members of the media. There are absolutely the votes in place based on public declaration alone by those that have called for the governor's resignation to impeach this governor. The Cuomo corruption tip line has received over 200 phone calls with legitimate tips. There have been dozens of investigative news reports containing documents and emails detailing evidence of his crimes. They've done nothing but stall and buy Andrew Cuomo time. And meanwhile, Andrew Cuomo is conducting a master's class on how to hide in plain sight. He does what he does best. He's rigging the system to protect his own power. He's putting hand-picked judges on the Court of Appeals who will be the ones to serve on a jury, an impeachment jury, to decide whether or not to convict him if we ever get to that stage. Andrew Cuomo is brazen in his conduct. He's trying to kill the clock, and he has a complicit legislature in place to do this so that you forget all of the furor and the anger that was going on all this winter and spring as these facts became realities. And if it's all not bad enough, it's now come to light that two of Western New York's assembly members, Monica Wallace and Karen McMahon, both have been appointed as members of the Impeachment Investigation Committee. They're two attorneys. They attended a secret dinner. It was revealed by the Buffalo News that there was a secret dinner at the governor's mansion last month, or earlier this month, where they sat there and had a lovely evening with the governor, someone that they're supposed to be investigating right now. This is an outrageous breach of ethical conduct and a blatant conflict of interest. There's no other way to slice it. It's like if a district attorney showed up to the scene of a crime and then went out and had dinner with the alleged criminal. Instead of acting to remove Andrew Cuomo from office, as they should have done months ago, Karen McMahon and Monica Wallace were being wined and dined and put on a full charm offensive by this governor over beef tenderloin and shrimp and cheesecake. And home, right in Cuomo's home, in his own home turf, to talk about how to get more infrastructure money for our region from the Biden administration. Doesn't that seem awful cozy? Isn't it a little convenient to have this meeting to talk about infrastructure with someone that's been accused of crimes that you're investigating? Andrew Cuomo is Machiavellian. Andrew Cuomo is calculating, and he's a cold-blooded politician who spends every waking moment plotting to stay in power. We already know that he used his vaccine czar to dangle life-saving COVID vaccines in exchange for political support from county executives. Fear and intimidation. That's how this governor operates. And it's the most classic Cuomo tactic. And Monica Wallace and Karen McMahon, they just walked right into it. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They ought to do the right thing today and step aside from that committee. They bought his line, hook, line, and sinker. Monica Wallace says she was there doing official business. You took an oath to be a part of this committee to investigate this governor's crimes. And you're sitting there dining with him and discussing, pork for your district. It's reprehensible. And they knew it looked bad. It's clear they got caught red-handed because that's why they're dodging questions about it. I don't see any of them stepping to a podium explaining why they sat with someone that's been accused of crimes and why they, as members of this committee, have felt it was in good taste in an ethical standard to sit with that was accused. And as a result, they need to do the right thing and step down from their roles on the Judiciary Committee in this impeachment investigation. This entire so-called investigation has been bogus from minute one. It's been a stall tactic. And if they want to recover a modicum of respectability in the New York State Assembly, they need to eliminate all conflicts of interest and start taking action immediately. And that starts with the removal of Karen McMahon and Monica Wallace from this committee. New Yorkers are watching, and we are going to continue to shine a giant spotlight on this entire cozy and corrupt cabal that runs our state legislature in Albany, and it's destroying the future of the state of New York. And with that, I will take any questions.
Nick, I wonder, how is this any different than what happens with the budget negotiations with the Assembly that often happen behind closed doors? Is there any Assembly member that doesn't have a conflict of interest when that process is going on with the governor?
Well, I think that we had a very, there wasn't much of a negotiation this year with the governor in this budget. He just gave the legislature all the pork they wanted. There were many calling at that time for this to be done in public, in the light of day. If the Karen McMahon and Monica Wallace wanted to have a meeting to discuss the Biden infrastructure plan and what priorities are for this region, they should have done it in a public forum instead of being victims of Andrew Cuomo's charm offensive and wined and dined, with a nice steak dinner and shrimp and lobster. That's what was reported on by the Buffalo News, and if the Buffalo News had never come forward with that, we wouldn't have known anything about it. But this meeting in secret, while they are part of it, they're attorneys. I believe both of them were part of the court system. They know when to recuse themselves and when not to. That stinks to high heaven by any standard, and they should not have gone to a private dinner like that with someone that they're investigating. I mean, it's just ludicrous that it would take place like this. But it just shows that the Assembly has very little integrity on this investigation. I don't believe anyone believes that they're ultimately going to call for an impeachment article on the floor. They control the floor. If it was a bipartisan situation, the Republicans could introduce this, there would be impeachment articles that would have been voted on before they broke for summer recess. But this whole tactic is, let's get out, let's go and let everybody live their lives. The people of the state of New York are excited that COVID and the pandemic is nearly over and we can get back to our lives, and they are expecting that we're going to forget about everything that's happened. We are not going to let people forget about the 15,000 New York seniors that died in New York State's nursing homes. And the New York State Bar Association report that came out today details crystal clear facts that this happened and more people died because Andrew Cuomo sent COVID positive patients into nursing homes. And then he covered it up and he lied. That's an impeachable offense. There's an investigation going on about sexual harassment in the workplace, and I'm plenty willing to let that go to the investigation. Let's read that report when the Attorney General comes out. But the deaths in the nursing homes, the facts are there right now for the impeachment. And meanwhile, someone that's supposedly a part of this investigation is sitting there yucking it up and laughing over beef tenderloin in Karen McMahon in Monica Wallace with Andrew Cuomo. It's disgusting.
So it sounds like you wouldn't really be necessarily pleased with any investigation. So why removing them from that committee do you think would help? Do you think would help the investigation? We keep finding out all these cozy details. One, the relationship between the law firm hired by the Assembly and Andrew Cuomo. I mean, it's basically all in the family with the way Albany works. I didn't say I wouldn't be happy with an investigation if it moved swiftly. Remember, we had 2 impeachments at the federal level in the last couple of years. They moved at record clip. All the facts have been digested. You and the media have reported on this day in and day out, yet they act like there's some special information that they're looking for that they can't find. It's all there. The data's there. The cover-up has already been revealed, and the reason we know the cover-up is those in the media are the ones that revealed the cover-up. You have the governor's chief of staff who went on a video call with members of the legislature and admitting to hiding facts because they were afraid of prosecution. Obstruction of justice is a pretty impeachable offense, and we've known about that since I believe it was March when we started calling for the governor's impeachment. When we started that, many called for resignation. He's clearly not going to resign. So we either are going to move forward with this or not. Now, why did they break for summer vacation if you've got something so serious on the docket? Put some extra time in, put the work. These legislators make over $120,000 a year, and they work
about 6 months in Albany. You know, when you've got something as serious as the governor committing major crimes and his administration covering them up, I think it's worth a few extra session days to get the job done.
It is, I guess it's kind of a repeat of my last question, but what do you think the alternative for Wallace and McMahon was if the rest of the delegation is meeting with the governor at the governor's mansion and talking about maybe $1 billion that could go somewhere?
No one has $1 billion hasn't been appropriated in any way, shape, or form. There's not even a deal on the money in Washington. But when you, I mean, do you think the U.S. attorney would go out and have dinner with someone he was prosecuting? These are two legal professionals that worked in the court system, and I believe some have prosecutorial experience. They know right from wrong, but they got invited to the mansion, and they got starstruck by the governor, and that's exactly what's happening. How can the people of the state of New York look at this and see anything more than conflicts of interest? It's all just too cozy. Let's get on with this impeachment. But they clearly are compromised at this point. You know?
In an era of such partisanship, do you think anyone takes calls like this, you know, just a slaying back and forth between Republicans and Democrats seriously?
Well, I think that we are talking here today so that, you know, and I appreciate you being here to cover it, so people hear what's actually going on. You know, the hypocrisy is crystal clear. It's right there in black and white. I mean, I read about it in the pages of Buffalo News. I almost spit my coffee out. That they had gone and had this, you know, very nice dinner with the governor to talk about how they were going to whack up a bunch of pork money if it comes from Washington. There's a lot of ifs on the table. The governor is, he's a real professional. He knows exactly how to manipulate the legislature. He's playing chess and they're playing Chinese checkers. And that's just all there is to it. And these local assembly members, Monica Wallace and Karen McMahon, fell right into the trap. While they're there to talk about how to get their hands on money for a series of projects that are pretty theoretical at this point. You have, you know, the governor, you know, just working and wearing away at the outrage and trying to, you know, win over those that are responsible for his prosecution.
So do you think they didn't even need to have a meeting like this yet?
Why would they insist on having a business meeting at their office? I mean, how often, you know, does this happen? This is a pretty rare occasion, and you know, someone was clearly pretty proud of it. My guess it was the governor's people themselves that probably leaked it to the Buffalo News, because it shows how normalized behavior is right now, and how the governor clearly isn't embattled in the eyes of the legislature. These same members were running around trying to, you know, dodge questions about whether or not the governor should resign, and then most of them relented and said, yeah, he probably should resign, and now they're arm in arm, all smiles, sitting at the dinner table. It just is way too cozy. People should expect more from their independently elected state legislators, because ethics be damned, they've been thrown out the window on all that.
Your belief of how this probably happened, aren't you giving the governor what he wants by reducing the credibility of two people who are investigating him?
I mean, I think he's already reduced their credibility to be objective by dragging him in. They've reduced their own credibility by going and groveling for theoretical money, you know, for infrastructure projects. I mean, when you have serious crimes that have been alleged, and you have decided to serve on the committee to investigate the governor, you don't go arm in arm with the governor. I mean, it's as simple as that. Andrea Stewart-Cousins was held to task when she started appearing with the governor at press conferences after she had called for his resignation. I don't remember which of these legislators called for his resignation or not, but, you know, how do you do that in one breath and then in the next breath is all is well in the world? They simply want you to forget all the things that have happened this year, and they want it all in the rearview mirror. I don't see where we've got any timeline in place where there's going to be a vote. I don't hear any discussion of special session. So here we are, June, July, August, September, October. I mean, by the time we get to next January, they're going to say they're on to the next thing. And, you know, I suppose we we have some serious stuff here, but we don't know. I don't think the Assembly has been serious one iota. That was a stall tactic that Carl Hastie put in place for his friend the governor, and we're seeing it on full display with actions like this by Karen McMahon and Monica Wallace. So I suppose we wait for the Attorney General, who seems to keep tight separation from the governor, you know, I have the most faith in the United States Attorney's Office in the Eastern District.
If you found out about this last month, why today? Like, why specifically?
We didn't find out. We found out about it Monday in the Buffalo News.
Okay.
No, this was in secret. You know, the whole legislative delegation meets with the governor for a big dinner, and it wasn't publicized at all. So, thanks everybody.